Welcome back everyone to another video on World of Warship Legends, and today we're talking about the mighty and brand new carriers that were introduced to all games starting at the beginning of this last update. We're just a little over a week in right now, and this is going to be kind of a first reaction, taking a look at what each line has to offer, tactics that I've found useful, and just the differences between the two lines. Now, I boosted all the way through the American line, went ahead, got all the way up to the Lexington, and then on the Japanese line, I boosted up to the Ryuo, and then I played it enough to unlock the Shokaku, and it's been a lot of fun. So, U.S. line has the Tier 3 Langley, Tier 5 Ranger, and a Tier 7 Lexington, while the Japanese line has the Tier 3 Hosho, the Tier 5 Ryuo, and the Tier 7 Shokaku. Generally speaking, I think that the Japanese have better torque planes, better damage, overall easier to hit, and then the Americans have some really strong HE dive bombers. And then we'll get to the differences at tiers here in a second. In the background here, we have a game of domination on the new map that was introduced in this update, Hotspot. It's a kind of a unique map. It's a lot of wide open space. Basically, there's islands around the cap points, and that's it. I still haven't figured out the best way to play this map yet, but just keep an eye on the background where the enemy team's moving, where our friendly team's moving. I think it's a real interesting dynamic, especially now with carriers. But going back to the carriers, I was a little nervous with Clash coming into the game. I was really enjoying the game the way it was. I was a DD driver for the most part, so I knew that carriers was going to make life a lot harder. And I can say a week in, I'm loving the new class. I think it's bringing some more balance to the games. And most importantly, the carriers are not overpowered, which is really key. So taking a look here, what I've done, I've started out as a carrier, and I'm thinking my job is to spot these destroyers. So you saw I put the autopilot on for the ship to move over to the east. I want to be directly south of that B cap, and then I lodged some planes, and I'm basically going to go up here. I want to find the first destroyer. If I can spot the destroyer, that way my friendly team can go ahead and start shooting at it. I think that's going to be one of the biggest advantages. Get rid of the destroyers first. Here we do see that the Hipper is also in the cap. So I'm going to go ahead, launch a set of dive bombers at the Hipper. Again, this is the Japanese line. The dive bombers are okay, not great. You see that was about 6,000 hit points plus a fire, so a good run. But the AA absolutely chewed me up. Didn't even really get a chance. So I sent that last fighter back to the carrier. One tactic that I've started using, especially so the AA at the higher tiers is incredible, especially on the battleships. It's extremely difficult to get close with the dive bombers in particular. You know, with the torpedo bombers, you can go ahead and start your attack runs a little bit further out, kind of slide under the AA, and then you can drop your torpedoes further out, which gives you the ability it's going to be a lot more travel time, and you're going to decrease your odds of hitting, but you're going to make sure that you get the ordnance off before your planes are killed, and that's kind of key. I think there's going to have to be some changes eventually. They're going to have to either nerf the AA on the ships, or they're going to have to buff the hit points on the planes. I'm not sure that the damage output of the ships need to change. If anything, maybe a change in the ordnance for the dive bombers. Having the option to have AP bombs, I think, would be huge. Again, these are all future things that might be happening. One quick note on this game. This game was recorded on April 18th, so this was pre the adjustments to XP and credit earnings that Wargaming announced during their stream on Friday. So right here, this run right here, this is a good example. I launched my first attack run way out, and made sure to give the BART plenty of lead time. Then I went ahead and launched the second attack run there a little bit prematurely, but I still got one torpedo hit. But if you look there, right where the BART is, you can see those first 3 torpedoes are still going through the water. So that's one area I found success that kind of allows me to get more ordnance in the air or heading towards the enemy ship without having to have my ships or my fighters destroyed. There you did see I got another torpedo hit on that BART. So it's a plausible theory. I'm not sure if it's the best yet. Overall, carriers are extremely difficult to be the top XP earner for any team. Tier 7, I think the best I've done is 3rd place on the team. I know, again, Wargaming is tweaking that a little bit, but I think this is just the learning curve that we're seeing here. Not exactly understanding how these ships and these planes should be used to best help the team in the win. But in the week that they've been out, I've already learned quite a bit, so I'm real excited to see as players continue to grow and learn and how this class will continue to adapt. So looking at this game, the teams are both even on ships, and both carriers are still alive. We have 2 caps, they have 2 caps, but I see this Tirpitz starting to roll into the decap, so I immediately go ahead, send some planes back his way. I'm starting the attack run a little early here, and this is one area I made a mistake right here. The island kind of juts out. I'm needing to get the torpedoes off before I get to that yellow space that you see in the launch indicator. That means that if the torpedoes hit while it's in that yellow space, the torpedoes aren't going to arm. But I pressed it a little bit too early, hit the island there, and I lost the torpedo. Fortunately, though, it looks like the friendly team is picking up that the Tirpitz is back there. But right now, we're about to be at a cap disadvantage. Even though we do have a destroyer up there in the A cap, he's being harassed by the enemy carrier right now. And again, that's absolutely what the carrier is there to do. They're there to take out the destroyers and to defend points. So one point that I do like about this, I can sit here, I can throw torpedoes or dive bombers at this battleship all day, and most likely he's not going to capture this point simply because he's not going to have enough time. The planes are going to move fast enough, and I'll be able to keep him spotted long enough that between my friendly team fire and my own ordnance, it will be impossible for him to capture the point. I want to take a minute now to talk about the consumables. They're just at the bottom of the screen to the left of the center. You see that we have the plane with the radio icon and then the propeller. The plane icon, I'm still learning and getting better at using it, but basically what you do is you press that and that will bring in friendly fighters. And those friendly fighters will be able to take down enemy planes. When used properly, they can absolutely decimate enemy squadrons. I've been able to shoot down complete squadrons of the enemy team. The other one, the engine cooldown, that is a great tool. So I enjoy using high speed when you get close to the ships, kind of minimizing the amount of time that you're in the damage area of the AA. So if you found out that you boosted all the way across the map for some reason, your engine's overheating, go ahead, hit the engine cooldown, and then you can continue to cruise at full speed and have that full spectrum of engine temperature rise to use again. Again, just a way to either get yourself across the map quicker or to get in and out of the enemy AA area a lot quicker. No surprise here when it comes to hitting targets. Destroyers are the hardest to hit. They're the most maneuverable, typically the fastest or one of the fastest ships on the map. Cruisers are extremely difficult as well. Not necessarily because they are as maneuverable, but because their AA is absolutely phenomenal. And if you go up against a ship that has actually been purpose-built to increase the anti-air stats, you will absolutely just get chewed apart. And if you're using dive bombers, I found that it's almost impossible to get your dive bombers on them. Here, get a look at the Wichita here. We're not in his AA range quite yet, and that's going to be kind of the indicator that this isn't a purpose-built AA. Go ahead and go on a torpedo run here. Even though it's a little bit wider, we're going to go ahead and drop the torpedoes. Hopefully that we get a little bit lucky with the spread. Fortunately, we do get them flooded and take them down. All 3 hits. That's about the best possible engagement for that ship. Going back to the AA, the battleship AA is phenomenal. If you're going up against a carrier, it's best to continue to drive in formations, stay with your teammates, because your AA will then just stack and make it extremely difficult for the enemy carrier to get any damage on you. If you're a carrier driver, you're going to be looking for those ships that are kind of off by themselves. Go pick on them. Either spot them for your enemy team or go ahead and start launching torpedoes and bombers. Now you saw here, there is a tendency among carrier drivers to sit at the back of the map, and I think that's a big mistake. Not only are you just taking yourself out of the game physically, you're making that flight time for your fighters that much longer, and that's just time wasted that you can either be spotting or dealing damage. And so what I did here, I started off, I went to the east and then continued up north to around the B cap, and now I'm just going back to the south. I'm making sure to stay close to my friendly ships and not get too aggressive, but also I want to be close enough so that transit time from taking off the fighters to getting to the enemy is much less. Here we see the Fletcher pop up. The Fletcher has some amazing anti-aircraft abilities for a destroyer. In fact, it's probably, I think it's the 2nd highest rated, only second to the Akizuki. So I want to make sure to try to give it some space. You can see the graphics there, just absolutely going crazy. But to sum it up, the carriers, they're an extremely fun class. I look forward to see as they continue to evolve, see what happens with them. I do think they're going to need some adjustments, either give the planes more hit points or nerf the AA if they want to be extremely useful, but they're not going to be a top finisher on the team, and I'm not sure that they should be. You know, if you're dealing anywhere from 50 to 90,000 a game, you're probably playing this well. Your main job isn't going to be necessarily just dealing raw damage. You're going to be out there spotting. Your job is to support your team, not necessarily your team to support you. Overall, though, like I said, just a blast to play. Curious what your guys' thoughts are. Leave them below in the comments. If this is your first time coming to the channel, please consider hitting subscribe. We'll have a lot more videos coming at you shortly. And just a little teaser, Kraken of the Week this week. It's going to be absolutely awesome game and very much related to carriers. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.